Hello everybody, happy holidays and welcome to our Bake With Us. We are so excited to be making these 3 recipes for you today. They are different and unique and not your typical Christmas cookie cutout. So please enjoy this baking session and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. First up, we are going to make my absolute favorite raspberry chocolate bars. To start for this recipe, we are going to take 2 sticks of butter and drop them into a large mixing bowl. And then to that, we are going to add 2 cups of flour and half a cup of packed brown sugar. And we're going to mix that together until it is nice and crumbly. This part is going to be used as the crust and also as the topping in the end of the recipe. So once we have that all mixed together, we are going to take a cup and 1/4 of the mixture and press it into a greased 9 by 13 baking dish to create the crust for our raspberry bars. Once we have this done, we're going to bake these for 10 minutes on 350 degrees. This cookie recipe was my absolute favorite growing up. It is always the one that I grabbed first on Christmas morning. So I know that you guys will enjoy these. It's a family recipe that has been passed down for a long time. So while the crust is baking, we are going to take 1 14-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk and add it to a saucepan along with about 3/4 of a bag of the milk chocolate chips. You can use semi-sweet as well, but I just think the milk gives it a nice richer flavor. So we're going to slowly melt that on low heat while we are waiting for the crust to cook. And when it is finished, it should look something like this. Now, once that crust comes out of the oven, while it is still hot, we are going to pour that chocolate mixture all over it and spread it out nice and evenly. Once we have all of the chocolate mixture out and spread out, we are going to take the rest of that butter, flour, and brown sugar mixture and just crumble it over the top. All of it, the rest of it, just crumble, crumble, crumble until we have completely covered the melted chocolate and condensed milk mixture. After we do this, we have a couple more steps and this is ready to cook. This one is super, super easy. So once we have that all down and patted down, we're going to take some seedless raspberry jam and we're just going to take it in little dollops or teaspoonfuls and place it all on top of the crumb mixture. You can use as much or as little of this as you want, but I will say that this combined with that chocolate mixture we made is really what makes this bar delicious. So I would definitely say that more is better on the red raspberry jam. I ended up using about 2/3 of the jar of jam on this recipe. And then once we're done with that, we just need to take the rest of those chocolate chips, the rest of the bag, and sprinkle it on top all over the crumb mixture and the red raspberry jam. And it is that simple. We are then ready to bake the bars on 350 degrees for about 30 minutes, and then we need to let them cool completely before we cut them. And here is what they look like when they come out of the oven. These are sweet and just the absolute best treat. Next, we're going to make a Christmas holiday cookie bar. So for this recipe, you're going to need some semi-sweet chocolate chips, white chocolate chips, and M&Ms, as well as some light brown sugar, butter, salt, some eggs, granulated sugar, baking soda, flour, vanilla extract, and then sprinkles. And I will have the exact measurements as we make the recipe together. So to start off, we're going to take 2 sticks of butter, or 1 cup, and we're going to drop them down into our big mixing bowl. And to that, we're going to add 1 cup of granulated sugar and 1 cup of packed brown sugar. My daughter was having trouble with the butter, obviously. And then we're going to go ahead and beat all of this together until it is nice and combined. We don't want any big clumps of butter, obviously, so just beat away until it is all nice and mixed up. This is taking a lot longer than I thought it was going to. Okay, once we are done with that, we're going to throw in 3 eggs. And you can see here I got a shell in there that I pick out. So 3 whole eggs, then half of a teaspoon of vanilla extract. We ended up using a little bit more because we like vanilla. And then we are going to beat that again to incorporate the eggs and the vanilla in with the sugars and the butter. And then we'll add our dry ingredients. So we have a 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and then 3 cups of flour, of all-purpose flour. So you see I add 2 cups there, and then a 1/3 cup. And we are just going to beat that all together until it is nice and dough-like, has formed a nice dough. And then comes the fun part. We get to add in all of our fun sprinkles and chocolate chips and all of the fun things that make this a Christmas bar. So I'm just dumping in a baggie full of Christmas sprinkles, and then we're just going to take some regular rainbow sprinkles and add a couple of handfuls of them in as well. We got a little bit sprinkle happy. And then to this mixture, we are going to go ahead and pour in some mini chocolate chips, some white chocolate chips, and some M&Ms. And we didn't necessarily measure any of these. The recipe calls for a cup of all 3, but we just sort of poured to our heart's content. I'm a baker who does not measure or does not always strictly follow measurements. And that's what it looks like before we get it all mixed up and together. Once it's all mixed, we're going to pour it onto a cookie sheet that we have lined with foil and then sprayed with non-stick cooking spray. And we're just going to spread out the mixture so it looks like a big cookie square, I guess. And then we're going to go ahead and top it with some more Christmas sprinkles and a few more M&Ms. Again, the recipe calls for about 1/4 of a cup of each as topping, but we just sprinkled. And then this is ready to go in the oven on 350 degrees for 30 minutes. I did end up taking it out about 8 minutes early. As you can see here, it was nice and brown. Okay, so our final recipe is going to be some chocolate truffles. So for this recipe, the first thing we're going to do is take a whole container of double stuffed Oreos and throw them all into a baggie. This is definitely the part that the kids love to do. So we're going to close up this baggie and we are just going to smash these Oreos up. I smashed them some and then I let the kids do it as well. And they clearly had fun beating on this bag of Oreos. So once that is done and you have a bunch of Oreo crumbs, you are going to go ahead and pour them into your mixing bowl and add to that a block of cream cheese. And then we're just going to blend that all together until it is nice and creamy. This is another recipe that I actually think a teacher of mine taught me when I was a kid. And I think this one's a little bit more popular or mainstream, but still isn't as made really often. So once we have our mix done, we are going to go ahead and form them into balls and place them on some parchment paper on a cookie sheet. We're going to need to throw these into the refrigerator to get nice and hardened before we cover them in our chocolate. So once we have all of the Oreos and cream cheese mixture rolled into balls, we will place this in the refrigerator for about 1 hour. Once they are nice and cold, we are going to take some melted milk chocolate and just start throwing them in there and coating them. And then my daughter here is going to sprinkle on some Christmas sprinkles. So we're going to do about half of these in milk chocolate, and then you will see me switch here in a minute to white chocolate, and we will do the other half that way. I personally prefer the milk chocolate ones, but my husband likes the white chocolate, so we do a little bit of both. Okay, and then we're going to do the white chocolate now, and you can see a little hand in my sprinkles eating them, but she actually ended up ditching me and I had to do the remainder of the sprinkles myself. She just wanted to eat them. And at this point it was dinner time and I think she was getting a little bit ornery and hungry. My daughter gets hangry. And here's what they look like, all finished and ready to eat. That is it for today's holiday baking session. I hope that you enjoyed. Leave me some of your favorite recipes down below in the comment section. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Merry Christmas, everybody.